West Virginia is looking to the past for their future. Rich Rodriguez returns to Morgantown as the head coach of the Mountaineers, where he coached from 2001 to 2007, compiling a 60-26 record with 3 double-digit win seasons. And the Mountaineer faithful are hoping that he can kind of recapture that magic. He did great at Jacksonville State. We know he still got it. They're hoping he can make West Virginia a contender again, just like he did back in the early 2000s, but I don't think that's going to happen in year one. Let's take a look at how he got here. I will say it's a fantastic hire by the Mountaineers. It was, to me, a very splashy hire. I think one that most fans are excited about, and I think Rodriguez will do well here. We're at this point because Neal Brown didn't pan out. 37-35 for Neal Brown in 6 years with 4 bowl appearances. So 4 bowls in 6 years isn't bad, but he only topped the 6-win mark one time, and that was when they went 9-4 back in 2023. Last year they went 6-7, had a blown lead on the road at Pittsburgh in the backyard brawl, but were beat by double digits in 5 of their 7 games. So just not acceptable. Mountaineers were not competing at a high enough level. They were not just not winning games, they were getting blown out in those games. Neal Brown, I think the writing was on the wall. He was never going to have them competing in a conference that was only getting tougher. So they got rid of him, brought back a familiar face, a guy who was phenomenal during these last few years at Jacksonville State, helped transition them to the FBS level, and now hoping to, again, recapture some of that magic and have West Virginia back relevant on the national stage. Take a look at the offense, though. Some major questions there. This is a team that has some talent. They averaged 29 points per game last year, over 400 yards per game, including 194 rushing yards per game. But they lose their quarterback in Garrett Green. They lose their top 3 pass catchers. They lose tons on the offensive line. You know, Rodriguez came out and said he feels like he has a very good quarterback room. We got Nico Marchiol or Jalen Henderson, the former Texas A&M quarterback, transferring in. Both those guys are more than capable to lead this offense. Marchiol, obviously, more experience with West Virginia. Been here, obviously, longer than Jalen Henderson, but both mobile, both have the ability to put up some solid numbers in this Rich Rodriguez offense. The key, of course, is going to be their running back, Jaheim White. 845 yards, 7 touchdowns was massive that he returned to Morgantown this year. Then you've got some solid pass catches. Rodney Gallagher returns. They add Cam Vaughn in from Jacksonville State, had over 800 reception yards with the Gamecocks last year. An underrated pickup, in my opinion, Jeff Weimer had over 1,000 yards last year. First team Big Sky selection at Idaho State. So some solid pass catchers, really good running back. Quarterback has some questions, but there's potential there. The offensive line certainly needs some work, though. Only one guy back from last year, a unit that gave up 27 sacks. Yes, they bring in some transfers up front, but still, that's an offensive line that's going to go through a major rebuild, and I do have a lot of questions about. The defense, lots of new talent coming in for Rodriguez. 6 starters are back, but they do lose 8 of their top 10 tacklers. This is a defense that was horrendous last year. Gave up 31.9 points per game, 415 yards per game, had the worst secondaries in the country, giving up 271 passing yards per game. So that's where we start. Can West Virginia fix their secondary? Again, kind of like the offensive line, it's completely rebuilt. They bring in a first-team Mountain West selection and Nevada cornerback Michael Coates. That's a big pickup there. Jason Chambers comes in from App State. They've got Justin Harrington coming in from Washington. So, I mean, when we say rebuilt, we really mean it. The majority of the secondary are brand new players coming in through the transfer portal, but there is potential. I like the front 7 a lot, though. I do like the front 7 quite a bit. Jamori Robinson coming in from UTSA, where he was the American Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year last year. 10.5 sacks with the Roadrunners. That's a huge pickup on that defensive line. Hammond Russell is back, had 3 sacks last year. And then that linebacking core has 2 really good transfers. Chase Wilson is in, second-team Mountain West selection at Colorado State last year, 98 tackles in 2024. And then maybe the biggest of all, Fred Perry, 110 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, first-team Conference USA at Jacksonville State. So, tons of new players, a handful of guys that are familiar with Rodriguez, though, because they're coming over from Jacksonville State. A couple of Power 4 transfers as well. West Virginia, interesting team to predict because it's really just a matter of how quickly these players adapt to Rodriguez's new schemes, how quickly these players build chemistry with each other, with so many of them. Does the quarterback situation pan out? Does the offensive line pan out? Does the secondary pan out? Those are the biggest, I think, questions as we go into the season for West Virginia. You take a look at the schedule, I think they'll start 2-0. But they cannot afford to overlook Ohio. That's a losable game. This is an Ohio team that won the MAC last year, went 11-3, team that runs the ball extremely well and had a very stingy rushing defense. And yes, they do lose plenty of talent, but that running game going to remain very strong. West Virginia needs to make sure they don't overlook the Bobcats, especially on the road. That is going to be a tough game. I think they'll get the win 2-0. Then you look at the schedule going forward after that, it's just really, really difficult. Pittsburgh in the backyard brawl, obviously not going to be easy. They have to play Utah. They have to go to BYU on a Friday night, to the Bounce House. TCU is going to be solid this year, and then they end the year with back-to-back games at Arizona State and Texas Tech, both of which are Big 12 title contenders. So some certainly winnable games, but a lot of losable ones as well. A lot of very good teams they're going to have to face that are more experienced than them. We'll start with Pittsburgh, though. Backyard brawl. Rodriguez's first backyard brawl since 2007, where his second-ranked Mountaineers were stunned, 29-point favorites by Pittsburgh, and that prevented West Virginia from going to the national championship game. That wild 2007 season, that was one of the bigger upsets we saw on the year. They win that game over Pitt, they go play for a national title. Instead, they fell short. So, kind of some emotions, I'm sure, coming back for Rich Rodriguez in this game. I unfortunately don't think he's going to beat Pittsburgh. And the good thing is, in a way, I guess West Virginia is not going to be a 29-point favorite in this game. They don't have national title aspirations. Pittsburgh will be the favorite in this game, despite it being at Morgantown. My biggest concern right now is Pittsburgh's front seven, how good they are. That defensive line and linebacking core are really, really good. And I'm afraid that with a relatively inexperienced quarterback, regardless of who West Virginia starts, and a very rebuilt kind of skeleton crew of an offensive line, things aren't going to go well for the Mountaineers offense. That's my biggest concern here. Pittsburgh's defense is really good. They've got a veteran quarterback in Eli Holstein. This is just a better team from top to bottom, and I think the Panthers can overcome that home field advantage. So I think West Virginia drops the backyard brawl to Pittsburgh. They lost the game last year, by the way, 38-34, allowing 2 touchdowns in the final 3 minutes. So a collapse by West Virginia last year, certainly revenge on their mind, but with this type of team, not going to be able to get it done. They're 2-1. I'm going to tell you now, I think they lose their next 3 heading into the bye week, and I really don't see a win there. You could argue it's Kansas, you could argue it's BYU, but both those are on the road. Kansas coming off a bye week coming into this game with their brand new stadium. Their veteran quarterback Jalen Daniels should return to form, was not great last year, should be better this year. Yes, they lose quite a bit on defense, but I think they're going to start to correct that actually fairly early. Kansas arguably should have won last year. West Virginia eked out a 32-28 win, scoring 2 touchdowns in the final 3:27. So literally the exact opposite of what happened in that Pittsburgh game. They gave up 2 touchdowns in 3 minutes to Pittsburgh. West Virginia found a way to score 3 touchdowns in 3 minutes against Kansas to get that win. But now on the road against, again, a fairly veteran offense, which I'm looking forward to watching for Kansas, and a bounce-back year for them. Kansas was better than people realized. They didn't go to a bowl game, but we saw them competing against some of the better teams within the conference. They should be able to beat West Virginia at home. I don't give them much of a shot against Utah. This is one of the best teams in the conference this year. Mobile quarterback in Devin Dampier coming in from New Mexico. Really, really good offensive line, so I don't think West Virginia or any teams are going to get much pressure on Utah. That defense, per usual, one of the best in the country. So despite getting the Utes at home, just don't see them having much there. And then a Friday night game on the road in Provo, that's not an easy place to play. Yes, BYU's got their quarterback issues. Jake Retzlaff now at Tulane, all those things like that. But the Cougars still have talent. They're not going to go from a 10-11 win team last year to not going bowling this year just because they lose Retzlaff. They actually had a pretty deep quarterback room. Not saying they're Big 12 title contenders, but they will have enough to beat West Virginia, especially at home. So a 2-0 start now has turned into a 2-4 start halfway through the season because, again, that schedule gets very difficult. They come out of that bye week to take on UCF on the road, and I'm actually going to give West Virginia a win here. I like this game in a way because it's a battle between 2 programs that are bringing back familiar faces, right? We know West Virginia's bringing back Rich Rodriguez, trying to restore them to the glory days, just like UCF is trying to restore themselves to the glory days with Scott Frost. So kind of going back to the past for their future for both these teams. Both these teams are in very similar spots, too. New head coaches, lots of new players. But from a continuity standpoint, West Virginia's got that advantage here. So they've got the rest advantage. They've got the continuity and experience standpoint because UCF is bringing in over 60 new players. It's like a completely new roster. And I think they're going to be in for a world of hurt in 2025. Definitely a growing pain year for Scott Frost upon his return. So, and also, Scott Frost hasn't been head coach in a couple of years. So all that thing factored in there. I think West Virginia does find a way to get the win at UCF. Stops the bleeding. They are 3-4. Bowl hopes certainly still alive. But then look at the rest of the schedule. TCU, at Houston, Colorado, at Arizona State, and then Texas Tech. Just some really difficult games in the final 5 weeks of the season, and I don't think West Virginia is going to win any of them. So we have them going 3-9. Now hold on a second before West Virginia fans freak out. Let's use some logic here, and then we'll circle back at the end. You look at TCU. This is a team that has a quarterback in Josh Hoover that nearly threw for 4,000 yards, has a very experienced wide receiver core, and 8 starters back on defense. Your secondary is completely rebuilt and gave up 271 passing yards per game last year. So now facing arguably the best quarterback you've seen all year to date, even though you get this game at home, I don't think you have enough to beat TCU. I'm actually relatively high on the Horned Frogs this year. So strong passing attack, really good defense, more experience across the board. Best offense you've probably seen all year. TCU gets the win. On the road at Houston. Certainly a game that they can win, but the Cougars should improve a lot in year 2 under Willie Fritz. They've got competent quarterback play now. The offense should be much better than it was last year. The defense, despite the poor record, was ranked 12th in the nation. They had a top 15 defense last year for Houston. That defense has a chance to be even better than they were last year. It's also on the road. I don't think they're going to get this win here in the Dana Holgorsen game that actually is no longer the Dana Holgorsen game. They lose that game. Colorado, a absolutely winnable game. To me, that is a toss-up. Getting the Buffaloes at home, a team that's going to take a bit of a step back, I'm torn on this game. Would not be shocked at all to see West Virginia win that one. I think that's actually the most winnable game probably in the Final 5, if you want my honest opinion. But I think the Colorado front 7, which is actually kind of underrated, does their job against an iffy West Virginia offensive line. We've seen the Buffaloes actually play well on the road under Deion Sanders, 6-6 in his 2 years, but 4-2 last year with some impressive ones there. They're really not phased. I think the offense gets better as the year goes on for Colorado. They find a way to eke out a win over West Virginia, and then on the road at Arizona State, not much of a shot there against one of the best teams in the conference. And then Texas Tech. They lost to the Red Raiders 52-15 last year, allowed 568 yards of offense. The Red Raiders probably going to be even better than they were last year if they can stay healthy. The bye week, the home field advantage doesn't matter in this case because Texas Tech owns the edge at every single aspect of this game, and that includes coaching-wise as well right now. So all that being said, West Virginia 3-9. I know that's not what fans want to hear. I know they're frustrated with that, but remember, Rich Rodriguez back in 2001, his first year in Morgantown, he went 3-8. This was not a really good team that he inherited. This was a team that's been struggling under Neil Brown, has been mediocre at best under Neil Brown. He's kind of come in, gutting it, trying to implement his own style, fix this program. This is a fixer-upper. He will get West Virginia back to relevancy. He will get them back to contending. But it's not going to happen in year 1. Anyone that thinks West Virginia can go out and win 7, 8, 9 games this year is kidding themselves. And look, there's some toss-up games both ways. The Ohio win could easily be a loss. The UCF win could easily be a loss. But you could argue that the Pittsburgh, Kansas, TCU, Houston, Colorado losses could all be wins as well. Certainly could. I think West Virginia is very competitive, better than last year when they lost 5 of their 7 games by double digits. I don't see as many blowouts in their future, but I don't think they have enough to actually get the wins this year. At best, I think this team goes 5-7. This to me is not a bowl team. So maybe we're on the lower end of the spectrum here, but we got them going 3-9. At best, they go 5-7. We're off by 2 games. I think 3-9 kind of that sweet spot there. Maybe 4-8, right off by 1 game. But regardless, would be shocked to see this team go bowling. Would not be shocked to see them go bowling next year. Rodriguez was a phenomenal hire. He will get this team back to where he had them in the early 2000s. It's just going to take a little bit more time, especially in this new age of college football, and you have to hope the fan base will be patient with him. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. The link for that down in the description below, along with our weekly newsletters. Do not miss out on those. The link for that over on thegridironexpert.com, free to sign up for as well. All of that there to become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.